On today's episode, we're going to make a classic food staple that's been on this earth for over 30,000 years and is mentioned specifically in the Bible by name 360 times. It's earned its place in culinary history wedged between nutritional and biblical. Today's episode, my friends, is all about basic, simple bread on I Can Teach You How to Make That.
Okay, here we go again. If this is your first introduction into I Can Teach You How to Make That, this is how it all goes down. You and I are going to make classic dishes together, broken down in such precise steps, you'll shake your head at how easy this whole cooking thing really is. I'll even walk you through the aisles of your local grocery store and point out the precise ingredients you'll need to get going. Today we're going to learn a simple 4-ingredient handmade bread dough. Once you've mastered this procedure, it will provide a canvas for your inner chef to explore in any creative direction you decide to go. You'll love this recipe's versatility, as it's an excellent entry point for sandwich bread, dinner rolls, garlic toast, or even pizza crust. Okay, let's grab a coffee and a cart, and I'll show you exactly what to grab.
We're making bread, so you guessed it, we need flour. Nothing special here, grab a sack of the all-purpose original Robin Hood, just like your grandma used to use. On the shelf right next to the flour should be the yeast. Grab 1 jar of the Fleshman's Traditional. If you don't already have salt at home, walk yourself over to the spice aisle and grab yourself a box of just plain old table salt. Look, I know some of you are going, hey David, I thought you were going to teach us some creative cooking. What's all this all-purpose flour and traditional yeast stuff? Listen, if we started with dishes that were outside of your skill set to start with, it'd be like me taking my first class of advanced hang gliding courses. Feel me? Messy. You see, the thing is, once you master this simple bread dough, you'll have the access to make so many different dishes just from your own cupboard. And some of you might be going to me, hey David, I can pick up bread at the bakery. Listen, bake somebody a loaf of bread that you love, let them walk into your place when it's baking. Tell me how that feels. All right, good talk. Alright, just about time to get in the kitchen. Here's a list of tools you'll need to get going. You'll need a stainless steel mixing bowl, a wooden spoon, a pastry knife, a measuring cup, a baking sheet, and a digital scale. Turn on and zero your digital scale and measure the following ingredients: 600 grams flour, 12 grams salt, 18 grams yeast, and 2 cups warm water. If you need a better understanding on how to use a digital scale, follow the click below to my website and I provide a tutorial there. I'm a staunch advocate that successful bread making comes from the proper measuring of your 3 ingredients: your flour, your yeast, and your salt. Take your measured flour and your measured salt and put them in the large stainless steel bowl. Take your dry yeast, put it in your measuring cup, and add 1/2 cup warm water. Agitate the yeast delicately until it dissolves in the water. Shouldn't take long at all. Once the yeast is dissolved, add it to the flour and salt mixture along with the other 1.5 cups of warm water. Alright, now we're going to kick it old school. I'm talking pioneer style. Get your flour, your water, your yeast, and your salt in your mixing bowl and mix in a circular motion. After a few minutes of agitation, it should start to resemble a dough ball. You may need to add a sprinkling of additional flour just to deal with any humidity issues. Grab a handful of flour and cover your work surface and your hands. You'll thank me later. When making dough, continue adding flour until it starts to form a ball. Slow down on the amount of flour you add at a time, adding only 1 or 2 tablespoons, and then fully kneading it in before you add more. When the texture of your dough is uniform, slightly tacky but not sticky, and the bread still feels light and soft, then you've added enough flour. It's at this point in the procedure we're going to knead the dough to develop the gluten strands. The easiest way to describe kneading dough is take some from the outside, force it into the middle, over and over again. The more you do it, the more the strands should feel like they're starting to develop. The best test is to take a walnut-sized piece of dough and stretch it until it's thin and transparent like a balloon or a wad of bubble gum. If the dough tears quickly or easily and you're unable to stretch it that thin, then your dough needs more kneading. This membrane-like structure is called a gluten window in the baking world. Because I've used the word gluten more than once in this tutorial, Perhaps I should have included a trigger warning at the beginning of this video. Okay, next step, give your mixing bowl a rinse and then give it a couple shots of the pan spray or just a light dusting in flour. And now we're just going to sit back and wait 30 minutes and let nature take its course. Alright, let's have a look. If your bread rose correctly, you should be able to take your finger and make a small indentation that stays put. Like the one above, that's looking pretty sharp. For our next stage, we're going to break down our dough into pieces that we want to use it for. Today I'm making 4 sticks of French bread and 4 hamburger buns. I'm going to start by breaking the dough down into 5 equal pieces, and then taking one of the equal pieces and breaking that down into 4 equal pieces. Okay, I'm not going to lie, I make the next couple steps look easier than they are. It will take you a little practice, but here's what you do. Essentially what you're taking is the outside of the dough and you're forcing it with your hands into the lower center part of the dough. As you become more comfortable with the dough in your hand, you'll start to employ the technique that I use above. I place firm pressure on top of the dough ball as I drag it towards me. If you do this correctly, they should almost be symmetrical when you're finished. Be sure to use the same technique as well with the hamburger-sized buns. Put your dough off to the side in a nice warm area, and you've earned yourself a 30-minute break. Okay, the only way I can describe this next step is we're taking the round spherical ball and we're stamping him to a flat oval type shape. From there, we're going to take our raw dough and roll it over itself end over end. If your dough has had enough time to rest, then its gluten strand should be flexible. Next, we're going to take our dough and stretch it into French bread sticks. This comes in 3 parts. 1 part hand movement, 1 part stretching, and 1 part the weight of the dough working against itself. If your dough tears at this stage, it means you're pulling it too hard or you haven't rested it long enough. You've seen this movie before. Grab yourself another 30-minute break. Okay, while we're waiting for our bread to proof again, we're going to preheat our oven to 375 on bake. Not favorites, not broil, bake. Time's up, the bread's proofed, increased in volume, and now is ready for the oven. You're going to set your timer for 15 minutes. The overall cooking time is half an hour, but 15 minutes through, I want you to open the oven and turn your bread rack around. All ovens have a hot spot. We're trying to avoid that and get some even cooking here. Let's reset that timer for 15 more minutes. And back into the oven they go. And there you have it. Simple, basic 4-ingredient bread on your countertop ready for dinner. Here's the thing with bread we don't think about. We're adding water to the flour to develop long, stringy, mozzarella-type strands. By incorporating yeast into the mix, the culture releases gas which then gets trapped inside the gluten windows. Then, by baking this doughy sponge, we're essentially suspending animation in a delicious final bread-like state. Even before your guests arrive, there's nothing like sneaking some hot bread with some cold butter. That's living. Now you've actually learned the technique, there's just one more thing I want to share. It's the rule of 3-6-9. By memorizing this simple formula, you'll always have the ability to make home-cooked, fresh-baked breads if you have access to flour, water, yeast, and salt. For every 300 grams of flour, I use 6 grams of salt and 9 grams of yeast. Thanks to the laws of exponentiality, if I wanted to 10x this recipe, I'd use 3 kgs of flour, 60 grams of salt, and 90 grams of yeast. And now that you know how dough should feel in your hand, you'll be able to figure out how much warm water you're supposed to add. There, you'll never go hungry again.
So, how did it go? I'm curious. If it didn't work out this time or your bread didn't rise, no worries. Wash your dishes, restart the video, and fire it up again. If you found this video useful, do the regular good internet stuff. Like, subscribe, share. If there's any dishes you'd like to see broken down in the future, be sure to add them in the comment section below and I'll reply to you there. Once again, thanks for watching. I'm David Husserowan. I can teach you how to make that. Bye for now. See me break down any other dishes in the future, be sure to add them in the comment section below and I'll get to it right away.